Today we're going to use the Naboso mat. If you don't have a Naboso mat, just do it right in your bare feet, or you can keep your sneaks on. But again, I recommend barefoot as much as you can, whether it's socks or barefoot down on the ground. For this warm-up, I'm using the Naboso stimulation mat, the small nerve stimulation mat. Start with thumbs up on the stick, and we're just going to get right into your rotation. As we did in the first video, over to the left and over to the right, keeping the feet nice and straight. I'm going to start to notice how your toes may gently work to grip the ground. When we stand, we want to keep the knees gently pulled open as we rotate over to the right and back to the left side. And the rule of thumb for the warm-ups, they're about 10 minutes. The dowel rod sections here are 10 minutes. And we want to hit about 30 seconds to a minute of each position. Not really counting reps, but if you wanted to count reps, you could do 10 or 20. We're going to start to raise up overhead. And again, work the head shift over to the left and over to the right. We can start nice and easy. We can move the feet more narrow, challenge the stance. Be mindful of how your feet feel as they rotate. Gently through your hips, through your knees, through your shoulders, and definitely through your spine. We can stand a little wider. We're going to toe in a little bit. And again, overhead, rotate left, rotate right. Now for these wide ones, we're going to start a little slow and let the hips try to rotate over to the left and over to the right. So this second dowel rod workout is going to be a little more focused on the rotational movements. My thumbs maintain pressure on the dowel rod. We're going to shift over to the right, shift over to the left. Top arm up nice and high. If we need to start slower and lower, we just turn down the intensity and we get the shoulder joints to start to move in that nice rotational pattern. Head stays nice and up, we reach the head, and we try to move those shoulders just right around the spine and right around the head. Good. Adding a new exercise, we can work on a backward push, keeping the weight on the left foot primarily, starting off nice and slow, keeping the stick on the left side of the body, back left, forward left. This top arm is going to gently raise up overhead, and as you get the movement, you're going to push that bottom arm down through and twist the body gently away from the dowel rod, maintaining this nice left heel up movement. And you'll feel how the muscles throughout the torso really rotate. If we can't get the arm up overhead yet, we're just going to settle back into that left side swing. After we do a few, switch over to the right side. Start off nice and easy and just get that dowel rod back to the right and forward on the right. Starting to push and pull that top arm over. And this is where your imbalances are really going to come out as you try to rotate under that dowel rod. You may notice that your toes want to grip down into the ground a little bit. That's because you're activating a lot of core. And again, if you need to, just start a little easier. Dowel rod back on the right, dowel rod forward on the right. Good. All right, let's move into a new exercise that is a staple. It's going to be called an underhand 8. You're going to think about a left hand and a right hand underhand circle. So to begin this movement, we're going to focus on the left hand, making a nice big, or drawing a nice big circle right around the shoulder, right around the glenohumeral joint. Shoulder comes down and back, lifts up and forward. Okay? We're going to do that over on the right side, and we're going to think about the right arm, making a nice big underhand circle. From the front, if I concentrate on my right side, all my brain energy is just thinking about this right hand, making a nice big underhand circle. And then I concentrate over on the left side. The head is going to learn how to float right over top of the body, okay? So we start to develop this underhand movement, which we also talked about way back in the daily key points, starting to learn how to coil the spine side to side. The side-to-side coil is going to turn into a nice natural underhand 8, although you will be sticky throughout your spine, your hips. You'll feel, as I still have some muscle imbalance in my right leg versus my left leg. My right shoulder is a little tighter than my left side. We're going to get into this rotational left circle, right circle movement, playing around with the depth. So standing tall, letting the head cut to the left, cut to the right. And I would recommend, if you have a mirror and you're at home, do this in front of a mirror so you can start to see how the body moves around the dowel rod. Stand up nice and tall, lean back. Again, you'll feel the core being challenged. The shoulders. Squat down into it a little bit. Try to maintain your bow set squat so feet are nice and straight. Knees are gently pulled open. And we're just going to power that arm through on the left and through on the right. Good. After we nail that exercise, you can spend a whole 10 minutes just on the underhand 8s. It's a great shoulder exercise. You want to maximize that movement. We can go back into side to sides. And we can start to work on a gentle pivot with the foot here. And we're going to roll that foot out to the green dot, letting the heel kind of fly away from the body over to the left and over to the right, and left and right and left reach. Adding a nice little flip and a big reach back on the left side and on the right side. Playing around with the spine, maintaining upward movement. And if you need to, obviously start a little slower. We're going to just step and twist that foot out. Back to center. Let's get back into some underhand 8s with a little wider stance. Picking the head up. We can work on a left hand circle, a left hand throw, or gently transition over to the right side. Right hand underhand. Back to center, both sides. Walk the feet in nice and narrow. Get that spine to develop that movement in the underhand pattern. Stand up nice and tall, twist left, and twist right. Elbows down, nice movements, left and right. All right, so next part, we're gonna start to maximize down into our rocker position. The rocker position is an integral position to develop symmetrical musculature down in the knees, the ankles, and down into the hips. And one of the things that happens as we grow into adults, we start to sit in school, we start to sit at work, and we don't get back into our groundwork positions. And the groundwork is so important to help balance out the skeletal structure and develop that symmetry down into the leg, the shoulder, and the hand muscles. So for this segment, I'm going to use the Naboso yoga mat, which is great. It's got texture. You'll see as I pick my legs up and my feet up off this, you'll see how the texture kind of forms into your skin. It is wonderful for helping to improve circulation and blood flow, but you can easily do this on your floor, your carpet, your hardwood, a gym floor, or if you need a little support because the knees are too sore, you can put a bath towel or any kind of yoga mat that's a little softer under your knees. So we have an 8, a 6, a 4, and a 3-point rocker. And the 8-point rocker is what you see right here. 2 feet, 2 knees, 2 hands, and then 2 elbows, okay? So these are your 8 points. And we're gonna start with just about a minute or 2 minutes down in the 8-point rocker. Now this is a challenging position with the hands nice and wide, the fingers are nice and as even as we can get them. And we're gonna tuck the elbows down. We're gonna try to maintain a nice little arch in the spine. At the same time, we want to look through the legs and ensure that our feet and our knees are in a similar position, okay? And we're going to just gradually sink down into this rocker position. As we do the rocker, we just kind of shift forward and backward, bouncing through the knees, through the elbows, and down into the feet. We're going to maintain that nice finger wide position, and we can add in a little shift over to the right side, and then over to the left side. We're going to try to just, again, reset those fingers, pull them nice and open and far apart. Gently slide forward out of it and backward down into it. Now, many of us, myself included, was very tight in this the first couple months of doing it. And so you might just need to start without sitting the whole way back, but just kind of bouncing and starting to feel the muscles in the front of the hips and down into the knees just gradually stretch out. This is the 8-point rocker. If we come up off the elbows, we change it to the 6-point rocker. The 6-point rocker is going to be wide fingers, toes tucked in a little bit, knees nice and straight, and rocking back and forth. Again, we're either rocking straight front to back, or we can get into a little side-to-side bounce, back on the left hip, back on the right hip, back into the left hip, and back into the right hip. Transitioning between the elbows down or the elbows up, keeping the chin pulled back and the head up nice and high. Now many of us will develop some pretty significant fatigue in the muscles, in the back of the neck and up into the shoulders, and even down into the hips and the knees. And that's an indication that we need to hit this position more frequently as we age to help maintain good hip health, good knee health, and good ankle, shoulder, everywhere through the body is going to get nice and healthy here. So we can transition between kind of like a full rock, front to back, or just little micro rocks down into the foot, or both feet, and then over to the left hip and over to the right hip. We can outstretch the arms a little bit. Again, focus on keeping the fingers nice and wide. You can let the head sag down low for a little, or pick it up nice and high. Turn and look over to the right shoulder, and then turn and look over to the left shoulder. And this is such an integral exercise because As children, they start to learn how to crawl by kind of prepping themselves with front to back movements like this. Crawling is a precursor to walking, and so we've got to maintain our crawl to really learn how to walk well and without pain. So this is a tough exercise for the knees and down into the hips. Separate the fingers nice and wide. You can press the thumb and the pinky down and try to pull the other three apart. You can drop down into the side-to-side rocker with a little head turn. And then over to the opposite side. Bounce it front to back, wide fingers. Come up out of it when you need a little rest. Walk the hands back. Transitioning more into an upright 6-point rocker. We're going to keep the hands nice and wide, close to us on the mat. And we can begin to, again, just kind of shift over to the right leg. Starting to work on the thoracic rotation, so left elbow in and right elbow away. And then over to the right elbow in and left elbow away. Finding any tight areas down into the ankles and the knees. Kind of rocking left and right nice and gently. When you need to, transition back into a more of an extended 6-point rocker. And the other thing that we can work on changing the knee depth, or the knee width, excuse me. Making sure that the toes are gently touching behind us. That's kind of the indication that your feet, your ankle muscles are going to be nice and symmetrical if you keep the feet in the same or similar position. And we're going to gently rock back onto the right leg. Pick the head up, we can twist to the right. And then back over to the left side. Coming back to center and adding a nice little hip shift over to the right side, right elbow in. Back over to the left side. Play around with your head and your neck movements. Try to just add some rotation to the left, look over the left shoulder, and then look back over the right shoulder. Arch back through the hands. And again, as always, challenge the finger position and try to keep the fingers nice and wide down on the mat. We can move the knees in nice and close, and you will feel the difference in the ankles and the knees in the different positions. And so you might have one position that feels okay, but then you change your knee or foot position and you get a tightness somewhere. And if you have any tension or tightness, just start to work through the micro bounces every day for about 5 or 10 minutes per day in this segment, and get that tightness. It will gradually work out, and it will help to improve the hip, the knee health, and all throughout the body. And it will be a little uncomfortable. Looking from the back for the last minute here. We want to again keep the toes in, and we're going to elevate that chest, and we're going to try to walk the hands back and sit back as close as we can onto that right heel. And then over to the left side. right, we're gonna get back to the hip hinge for the second part of this workout. Thumbs on the stick. Stick is gonna be pulled down into the shoulders gently. Weight's gonna be nice and centered on the outside of the feet. On the slant boards, we're gonna gently try to roll the knees open. We're gonna focus today on the hip hinge as well as some upper body movements. So let's start with a little lean down into the left side and a little lean down into the right side. Over to the right, we wanna gently begin to twist that right elbow back. And then over onto the left, twist the left elbow down and back towards the left hip. The knee gently rolls open, and then the knee gently rolls open over to the right side. We're gonna have light pressure, if any, through the heels. Just try to float the heels up. Keep the toes nice and relaxed, and as you work on the balance on the outside of the feet, you'll feel how your glutes and your hamstrings get a nice solid workout. Over to the right side, right elbow down, and over to the left side. Come back to center. We're going to again begin to work on that double bow set, where we gently pick the pressure or take the pressure up off the heels, and we work on that knees open approach. Elbows are down nice and far, and we're gonna start to sink down. First, just working on our double bow set, knees open. This is called the double bow set, where we really kind of pull the knees open. Or we've got our release position, our hip hinge position, where the knees are gonna roll in. And we've got nice light pressure through the toes. We keep the pressure on the outside of the feet, and we're just gonna start to work on our hip hinge. Knees in gently on the hip hinge. We can shift the head over to the right side. We can shift the head gently over to the left side, and that's gonna kind of transfer the weight between the left foot and then over to the right foot, okay? We can bend the knees down and in, keeping the feet nice and straight forward and arching back through the spine. You're gonna feel how this really works the adductors, the inner leg muscles, and down through the hamstrings. Maintain that stick right down into the scapula. You can keep your thumbs rolled over, or again, drive the thumbs down through or right through the dowel, okay? We're gonna keep the feet soft. When I say soft, we wanna like wiggle the toes, we wanna pick the heels up a little bit, and we wanna begin to rest on that green dot that you have in your info packet. We're gonna transition between a little double bow set, and again, just like we did against the pole, start to bounce up and down. Start to shift your hip over your right leg, over your left leg. Back to center, straighten the knees out big time. Roll the knees in. You can have light pressure through the heels, and you're gonna feel this big time, like up in your hip crease. Now we wanna maintain that nice back extension. So, on a side view, we're trying to really shift the hips back and get that dowel rod to just kind of allow you to arch back over that dowel rod a little bit, right? Now, as we work on the hip hinge, it's gonna help you to balance out your spine and your hips. And we're gonna really work on that shift. And then as we shift the head over the right foot, we want that right knee to roll in a little bit. And then over to the left side. And you can play around with different positions, kind of like up out of the hip hinge, over to the right, and then slowly sinking down deeper into the hip hinge. And you will have a little pinch, a little tension. A lot of people have a little tension in the front of the hip. And that's okay if you work through this nice and gently. Over to the right side, right knee in. But still try to maintain that weight on the outside of the foot. So you see how my ankles kind of roll out. That's one of the big things with the double bow set we work on. And then as we hip hinge, we want to maintain this arch. And it's kind of like a grip. You see my toes grip the plate here. And we work on this knees in approach. And this is what's going to really help the back side to get strong. The glutes, the hamstring, and we'll take pressure out of your low back. Now, very important that we're not going to round with the low back, but we're going to try to maintain that nice little kind of like hip out or low back extension, lumbar extension position. Okay, so let's get back into it. Grip the feet, twist the knees, hinge down. We can drop the left elbow down. We can drop the right elbow down. We can pull the knees in, keep the chest up. You can play around with the stick position, and high level is going to be to start to get into some underhand eights in different positions. Up tall, transition, back down into your hip hinge. Back up. If at any time the low back muscles or the hip muscles start to fatigue, just change your position. Okay? There we go. So we want to get those arches down the feet, and you want to feel as your feet, they will start to grip. Many of us have weak foot muscles, and the toe muscles will start to get mega strong by practicing this position. We can go back with the dowel rod, sink down into a nice narrow kneed squat, and then a bow set squat. But as we narrow knee, we do not let the ankle roll in. We keep that arch in the bottom of the foot, and that's what the slant boards help us to develop. Let's go into a little more toe in now. And again, just sink right down into your hip hinge. That's low back flat, chest up. All right, so straight feet and knees in. We can bounce over the right leg and gently work on raising up the right heel with the right foot out. You see how I kind of roll around on my toes here? So the right knee is going to be in, the right heel is going to be up. You can work on the right heel out far, bounce into that right leg. All right, before we even get down into there, we can just roll around on those toes high up. Foot health and tendon health down the feet. Bone position down the foot. Everybody gets real tight, stiff, but sometimes weak feet. So we're going to start to work on kind of loading this hinge right here. The heel out. Roll around on that ankle as best you can. Start very slow because your connective tissue is going to get sore from this. It is going to help you gradually over the time frame to develop a lot of strength on your feet. Okay? So back to center, hip hinge, shift, gently raise a foot. You can drop the elbow down. Shift, raise a foot. Drop the elbow down. Back to center. Straighten the feet up, knees in. Get the nice little calf grip. Drop down into it, head up. Knees in. Straighten the knees. Bounce gently. Through the right leg, right knee in. Through the left leg, left knee in. Up and down. Low back stays nice and flat. And again, you can go very slow. We're going to start to transition from the head to the left, head to over right, head to left, head to over. 5 minutes of a wall plank. This is a reverse wall plank. We're going to set the slant boards up, and if we don't have the slant boards, we don't have to use the slant boards. But what we're going to work on here is about 6 to 10 or 12 inches away from the wall. And we're just going to start to reach the palms back. First step is starting to reach one palm back. Trying to keep the middle finger down to the ground, keeping the feet nice and straight forward. And we're going to work on reaching that right hand nice and flat back onto the wall and straightening the right elbow, super challenging. to activate the back chain here. And we're gonna work on rolling that right shoulder open, right? We're gonna try to flatten all 5 fingers down onto the wall. And then we can either switch over to the left arm. Again, trying to make sure we keep that middle finger to the ground. And eventually, over the next couple months as you do this, we're gonna get both arms back onto the wall. And we're just gonna start to pump left shoulder up. And we wanna get the neck nice and loose here. And then right shoulder up. As the right shoulder opens, the left shoulder closes. And as the left shoulder opens, the right shoulder kind of closes forward. We can come back to center, we can reach the hands down a little bit, and we can roll both shoulders open nice and strong back into the wall. Stretch the neck to the left, stretch the neck to the right. If you need to take a break at any time through this video, take a break through it by just pulling your hands off the wall. You'll feel how your back chain gets mega active here. We're gonna keep the feet straight. If you've got your slant boards, you can use them, absolutely. We're gonna work on getting into that double bow set position where the knees are gently pulled open. You see how that kind of formulates the arches down in the foot? And then we're gonna work on that shoulder mobility through the right side and through the left side. Head is gonna be up nice and high. Move that neck around. Turn it and turn it. Extend up, roll the shoulders open, gently pressing the pelvis forward. Lean the head to the left, lean the head to the right. You can bend the hips, and again, your body's gonna wanna move through these positions because they're mega challenging, so you're gonna fatigue quickly in each position. If at any point you get too fried, just take a hand off a wall, maintain the other hand on the wall, almost like if it was glued down onto the wall. Wide fingers, flat hand. Try to stand up tall through that shoulder. And then you can easily change to the other hand for the other side of the reverse wall plank. Press the arm down, get that nice stretch through your neck. Come back to center. Reach both hands back. The higher you can get them up, the more challenge. At first, you're just gonna work on the hands right down by the hips. Pick the head up, kind of move around a little bit. Get into a nice little shoulder pump. Again, if you need to, take one hand off. Keep the fingers pressed wide onto the wall. Straighten the elbow. Loosen that neck up away from the shoulder. Switch sides when you need to. If you need to drop to the elbows on the wall, you can drop to the elbows on the wall. Keeping the feet nice and relaxed on the slant boards, or you can transition into one arm, one elbow on the wall, or other arm, other elbow. Okay? If you, easiest is going to be to stand very close to the wall at first, and just kind of pin yourself back, keeping the feet nice and straight forward, flattening the hands out. As your back chain gets stronger over the next couple months, you're going to be able to press a little higher up and maintain the shoulder roll open. And we're going to get in this nice high-heeled back chain plank. Adding a left shift and a gentle right shift. rotating the hips to the left. Over to the right. You'll definitely start to feel all the leg muscles, the spine muscles, and the oblique muscles may work one way a little better than the other way. All right, that's fine, right?